Okay, I'd like to show you another example from the piece, and this is a groove example. So check it out. It's a cross-stick groove that goes under the second part of the guitar solo and the piano solo. And I'll play it for you slowly to start off. Okay, so we'll just do it a little bit slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there it is. So the tempo that it's at in the piece is something like this. Okay, so grooving with a group. This, of course, is the challenge that every drummer faces for their whole life, is how to make a groove feel right in a variety of different situations in a small group. So obviously what I want to do is be aware of what the kick drum is playing and where the important accents are in the snare drum and evaluate how that locks in with the bass player. And again, going back to interpersonal skills and rehearsal technique, I like to really try to make sure I have a good verbal, not considering playing for a second, a good verbal communication with everybody else in the group. So I look them in the eye and to make sure we have a discussion in rehearsal about what's going to work and what doesn't. Also knowing your stuff, knowing how to say, some drummers play by ear, which is totally cool, but knowing how to say, I want to play in 8th notes, 16th notes, is this in 4/4, is this in 5/8? Knowing that language will help the rehearsal process and help the feeling of teamwork and professionalism within the group. So with that groove, of course, I'm aware of what I'm doing with the kick and where the important accents are in the cross stick or the snare, and I just make sure it locks in with everything else. Also, I'm just being really conscious of the tempo I'm choosing. When I go into a different groove, extrovert and introvert has all kinds of different feels. So when I go into one of the new parts of the song, I'm really making sure that it's the right tempo and I'm not rushing or dragging. Especially when I go into half time or double time or something, which happens a lot in the piece, or the meter changes, I like to make sure the time is consistent. Okay, and that's pretty much a basic skill. That's something that you'll always have to think about. So this groove has a couple basic ingredients, and again, I don't want to stress technique in this DVD, but let's just take a look at this real quick. I like to use compound stickings. You'll hear Todd Zuckerman and Marco Miniman talk about this a lot. Compound stickings and rudiments are extremely important for your drum set playing, your groove playing. So there's a compound sticking that I like to use in this cross stick groove, and I'll just show you that real quick. Okay? That's the compound sticking. It's right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. Okay, and it's relatively easy to play that quick, okay? So again, these are basics, you know this. Practice it on the snare drum first. Just the compound sticking, and then apply it to the drum set, okay? So very slow. Yeah? But played very fast, it's an 8-note pattern. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left. Played very fast as an 8-note pattern as 16th notes or 32nd notes. It provides a really kind of spicy groove. So if you use it tastefully in these kind of drum and bass feels, it really sounds great to me. Yeah? Okay, so Kevin Gastonguay plays the great piano solo in this piece, and We give them kind of 3 times through the form. And one thing you want to know how to do if you're playing rock or fusion is know how to develop a groove. Okay, so just turn on the gasoline a little bit and you know, give it some flair and open up on the cymbals a little bit. So what I like to do is once I have a basic idea and a kick and snare pattern for the groove, I think of how can I take it to the next step. And there's nothing wrong with pre-planning this. You know, in a long concert, if you want to improvise something, obviously, you know, the sky's the limit in a live concert. But in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with pre-planning, just like an orchestral percussionist or a classical musician would, some of the choices you want to make. And an extrovert and introvert, I know that in the middle of the piano solo, I want to go to the bell of the ride cymbal and play the same figuration, okay? So whereas I was playing this before, I kind of play a similar drum and bass groove on the kick and snare while using my right hand on the bell. So it sounds a little something like this. So sometimes, the 3rd time through the form, I spice it up even a little bit more, and I start adding rim shots, which is a timbral thing. It adds a new timbre to the mix. And I start doing this kind of duple effect, open-close effect on the hi-hat. Okay? So that's kind of the next level. It brings it up a little bit, and Kevin always plays off it, and it sounds great. Okay? So here's kind of level 3 of the same groove. Something like that. So listening to a soloist in a rock and a fusion atmosphere, I'm approaching the same level of listening, dynamics, and color as I would in any jazz group. It's just a different feel and a different dynamic approach to the drum set. Okay, so now that we went through some of the drum set stuff, let's take a step back and think about this conceptually and pedagogically for a second. It's important for young percussionists to have some sort of relationship to the drum set, even if it's very small, and to jazz and rock music in general. Both the instrument and this tradition of music directly relate to American life and American culture in a way that most music studied in collegiate programs from European traditions does not. I would encourage you and your students, if you're a teacher, to approach rock music and rock drumming with the same degree of artistry and detail that is sometimes only associated with the jazz art form. In your music programs and private lesson curriculums, strive to encourage songwriting and rock music with the same degree of enthusiasm. Many of the musical elements that are considered valuable pedagogically can be found in a lot of progressive rock music, establishing control and sensitivity to tempo and groove, achieving beauty in lyricism and melody, dynamic choices, sound color, creative orchestrations on the drums or as a composer with a variety of instruments. Extroverted introvert uses some untraditional instruments in a rock band, flute and violin. And also, it's a great way to study odd meters and complex rhythms. Furthermore, you can explore advanced tonal harmonies in progressive rock music as well as improvisation, just like I was showing you earlier.